Who were you before life made you become practical, responsible, and everything else everybody needed you to be?
Oh, yeah, that Crown Innergy. Crown Innergy. That Crown Innergy.
Do you remember who you were before life told you who you needed to be? Before the disappointment? Before you started worrying about money, work, bills, relationships, and everything else that comes along with being a grown woman? Do you remember what made you happy? Do you remember what you dreamed about? Do you remember the things you could sit and do for hours without anybody having to remind you, motivate you, or pay you? Because I believe there is a part of us that remembers. Even when we think we have forgotten, our soul remembers who we were before life taught us how to survive. And today, girl, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what happens when life causes us to disconnect from ourselves. And how can we begin to slowly find our way back? Now, when I use the word soul, I'm not necessarily talking about religion. I'm talking about your deepest and most honest self, the part of you underneath your job title, underneath being somebody's mother, wife, daughter, employee, or a caretaker, or whatever role that is. And yes, I know that's a lot of layers to peel back, but I am talking about that part of you that knows what matters to you, the part of you that knows what brings you alive, the part of you that still remembers the woman you were before you had to become so practical. Because somewhere along the way, many of us started asking, what do I need to do? What bills need to be paid? Who needs me? What needs to be handled? Or what can I afford? What makes the most sense right now? And listen, those are real questions. And I'm not going to sit here and act like we don't have responsibilities, because we do. We have to work. We have to make money. We have families, and we have people who really depend on us. We just can't wake up one morning and pretend that none of that exists. But the problem comes in when responsibility becomes our entire identity. We become so focused and we forget that we're supposed to be experiencing life. I know what it's like to go to work, come home, take care of responsibilities, take care of the families and the kids, and just to wake up and do it all over again. But after a while, you become so used to that routine that you don't even realize that you're disconnected from yourself. You're functioning, you're dependable, you're doing what you're supposed to do. But deep down inside, you feel something missing, and you may not have the words to explain what it is. You just know that something doesn't feel right. You know that you should probably be grateful because you have a job, you have a home, and you have people who truly love you. But you still feel this restlessness. You still feel like there is something inside of you that you have not explored, something you have not created, something you have not allowed yourself to become. And I want you to hear me when I say this. Feeling that way does not mean you're ungrateful. It does not mean that you don't appreciate what you already have. It simply means that your soul remembers there's more to you. Not necessarily more things, not necessarily a bigger house or a better car or a certain amount of money. I'm talking about more of you, more creativity, more honesty, more freedom, more joy, more of the woman you know you could become if fear or exhaustion or survival mode was not making every decision for you. I want you to think back for a moment. Maybe you love to write. Maybe you love to sing, or maybe you love doing hair, decorating, sewing, dancing, drawing, or just helping people, creating things with your hands. Maybe you were a little girl with a big imagination. You had ideas and you had dreams. You believed you could become anything. Maybe somebody told you that your dream wasn't realistic. Maybe you tried something and it didn't work the first time. Maybe you had children, got married, started working, or had to take care of family. Maybe survival became your priority. And the things that made you feel alive slowly moved to the bottom of your list. You told yourself, I'll get back to it one day. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll start when I have more money. I'll focus on myself when everybody else is okay. But somehow, everybody else always needs something. There is always another bill. There's always another responsibility. There's always another reason why now doesn't feel like the right time. Before you know it, years have passed, and that little girl with all those ideas became a grown woman who can barely remember what she wanted before life told her what she had to do. And that girl, that's survival mode. Survival mode does not always look like your entire life is falling apart. Sometimes survival mode looks like you're very productive. It looks like you're getting up every day and you're doing everything that needs to be done while completely ignoring what's happening inside of you. You're making it work. You're handling your business. You're showing up for everybody, but you're slowly disappearing from your own life. And when you have lived that way for a long time, it can feel strange to turn your attention back towards yourself. Someone can ask you, what do you enjoy doing? And you honestly don't even know how to answer. They can ask you, what do you want? And your first thought is, well, what does your children need? Or what does your family need? Or what would make the most financial sense? You don't know how to answer for yourself because it has been so long since you've allowed yourself to want anything. Sometimes purpose is about returning. And we often talk about finding purpose like it's something hidden far away from us, like we have to search an entire world or take classes or completely reinvent ourselves before we can ever discover it. But what if finding your purpose is not always about becoming somebody new? What if part of your purpose can be found by returning to the parts of yourself you had put away? That creativity you stopped using, that confidence that you lost, the curiosity you silenced, the idea that keeps returning to your mind, that dream you keep talking yourself out of. Maybe those things are returning for a reason. Maybe your soul is trying to remind you of something. Just think about that. Why do certain ideas refuse to leave us alone? Why is it that you can ignore a dream for years, but every time you see somebody else doing it or doing something similar, you feel something inside of you? Sometimes you can feel excitement. Sometimes it's sadness. Sometimes it's even jealousy. And we don't like to admit that, but jealousy is not always about wanting somebody else's life. Sometimes it reveals the life we have not given ourselves permission to pursue. You may not want to be that person, but you simply just want the courage that they had. And that feeling can be information. Instead of judging yourself for it, ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to show me? Is there something I've been denying? Is there a part of me that wants to be expressed? Is it something that I keep saying that I'm going to do someday? And sometimes your soul speaks through restlessness. Sometimes it speaks through curiosity. Sometimes it speaks through the idea that keeps circling back around. Sometimes it speaks through sadness you feel when you realize how long you have been putting yourself last. And sometimes it speaks through joy. You do something that you haven't done in years and suddenly you feel yourself again. That feeling really matters. Who were you before you became afraid? Sometimes it isn't responsibilities that disconnect us from ourselves. Sometimes it's fear. Maybe there was a time when you shared your ideas freely and then someone laughed at you. Or maybe you used to be confident, but life humbled you a few times. Maybe you trusted yourself until you made a decision that just didn't work out. Maybe you tried starting something and the people around you did not support it. So you started becoming smaller. You just stopped. You stopped talking about your dreams. You stopped taking chances. You stopped believing that the things in your heart were meant for someone like you. You started calling yourself realistic. But if I'm being honest, Some of those realism was just fear. And I have had to recognize that in myself too. Sometimes we say we're waiting for the right time when we're really afraid to just begin. And we say that we need more information when we're afraid we might not be good enough. We say we're too old when we're afraid that people will judge us for starting late. We say that we don't have enough money when sometimes there is just one small step we could take with what we already have. Now, I'm not going to say we should ignore reality because most of the time we are not going to have the whole plan. And I definitely don't have it all figured out. I'm learning and I'm building and I'm trying new things. Some things work and some things don't. Sometimes I feel confident and sometimes I question everything, but I'm learning and I would rather move slowly towards a life that I feel it's genuinely mine than remain uncomfortable or remain comfortable in a life where I'm constantly abandoning myself. That is what Crown Energy means to me. It isn't about pretending you have everything together. It isn't about waking up every morning feeling powerful and confident. It's about becoming aware of the part of you that you just lost contact with. It's about listening to yourself again, and it's about deciding that the woman inside of you still deserves a chance. You do not have to blow up your whole life. And I want to make something very clear. Reconnecting with yourself does not mean that you have to quit your job tomorrow. It does not mean you have to move your family across the country and start a whole entire life. Sometimes we make change feel so big that we scare ourselves out of doing anything at all. But you can begin small. You can buy the notebook. You can write one page. You can take the class. You can research the idea. And you can create a social media page and you can pull the sewing machine back out. You can record the first video. You can take yourself somewhere you have always wanted to go. And you can spend like 30 minutes doing something that has nothing to do with work, responsibility, or taking care of someone else. You can begin having a relationship with yourself again. And yes, it may feel awkward at first. And you might hear that voice saying, "This is a waste of time," or "You're too old for this. You should be doing something productive." Nobody is going to care. But every time that you choose that creative part of you that wants to create, you're just saying that you haven't forgotten. You still matter. There's still time. That is how we come back to ourselves. Not always through one big dramatic decision. And sometimes it happens through the small moments of self-recognition. You are allowed to change. And another reason to touch with ourselves is because we become attached to the person that everybody expects us to be. Maybe you have always been the responsible one, the strong one, the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who doesn't take risks, the one who makes sure that everybody else is okay. And when you start changing, people may not understand. They may ask why you're doing something different. They may remind you of the person who you used to be. And they may not take your dreams seriously because they have only known the version of you who stayed safe. But you are allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow an identity that you once protected. You are allowed to discover something new about yourself, even at the age 30, 40, 50, 60, and beyond. You are allowed to say, "This used to be enough for me, but it isn't anymore." You are allowed to want more peace. You are allowed to want more creativity. You are allowed to build something of your own. You are allowed to live differently from the way you were taught. And you do not need everybody to understand before you take the first step. Sometimes people will only understand after they see the change in you. And some people may never understand. That doesn't automatically mean that you're making the wrong decision. It means the choice is yours to make, not theirs. Ask yourself these questions. If you have been feeling disconnected from yourself, I want you to sit quietly and ask yourself a few questions. Who were you before you became afraid of being judged? What did you love before you became busy? What dreams do you keep returning to? What part of yourself have you been hiding? And what makes you feel alive even if you're not getting paid to do it? What would you try if you did not have to be perfect? And here's the big one. What is one small thing that you can do this week to reconnect with that part of yourself? Not next year, not when everything is perfect, not after every bill is paid or when everybody else is taken care of and satisfied. What can you do this week? Maybe it's only 30 minutes. That still counts. Maybe nobody else understands why it matters to you, but it still counts. Maybe you're not good at it yet, but it still counts. Because this is not about immediately turning your passion into a business or proving something to the world. This is remembering yourself. This is about rebuilding trust with the woman inside of you. This is about showing your soul that you are finally listening. Now, life may have made you practical. Life may have made you cautious. Life may have taught you how to survive, stay quiet, and handle everything without asking for help. But underneath all of that is still a woman with dreams, a woman with ideas, a woman with gifts, a woman who wants to feel alive, not just needed. She did not disappear. She did not die. She may have been quiet because life was so loud, and she may have stepped back because survival required her full attention, but she's still there. Maybe that restlessness that you have been feeling is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Maybe it's your soul reminding you that you have been away from yourself way too long. Maybe it is asking you to come back, not to the exact person you used to be, because you have lived, learned, grown, and changed, but back to the truth of who you are, back to your creativity, back to your curiosity, back to the dreams you thought were no longer impossible, and back to the woman who you were before life made you forgot. That is Crown Energy. It is strength, truth, creativity, and purpose that have always lived inside of you. And sometimes activating your crown energy isn't about adding something new. Sometimes it is about removing the fear, the expectations, and the survival habits that has been covering up who you always have been. So girl, do me a favor, leave me a comment, tell me, what is the one part of yourself that you are ready to reconnect with? Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your confidence. Maybe it's an old dream. Maybe it's just simply joy. Whatever it is, I want you to name it, because sometimes saying it out loud is the first step towards giving that part of yourself permission to live. And if this message touched something inside of you, share it with another woman who has been taking care of everybody else but herself. Like this video, subscribe to the Crown Energy family, and come back, because we are learning how to move out of survival mode and build a life that feels honest, aligned, and truly ours. Your soul has not forgotten about you. Now it is time for you to remember her. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and always honor what feels true and aligned for you. Take care.